On 12 News at 4, we are all about bringing you solutions and empowering you to better your lives. Every day, we bring some of the Valley's most experienced professionals to discuss trending topics on health, ways to save money and improve your financial life, the law, relationships. We even have an expert on pets. And it's not just us asking the questions, we give you, the viewer, the opportunity to weigh in and ask questions too. Now, we're putting all these segments together in one place for you. This is Ask the Expert.
It's Good Friday and it's Feel Good Friday too, and it's time to debunk some of those viral health trends we tend to see circulating on social media, of course. Joining me now here in studio is Dr. Sonal Harder from One Medical. Okay, the first type of video that's popping up all over the place is about these parasite cleanses. So we're going to take a look and then talk about it. Look at this. Oh, and we're not getting sound, which is great because I don't want to hear that. The video has more than 10 million views. It shows people dipping their feet into hot water with apple cider vinegar to get rid of parasites in their body, as people tend to do with fruits and vegetables. You can actually see little worm-like things swimming in that sink water. But is it real? So let's dig deeper into the science behind the trend. Sonal, first off, what do you think about the video?
Okay, so I can't tell if those are worms or if that's like a piece of fiber or thread. I know the video, the TikToker does add clay to that concoction, so I can't comment what that was. But here's what I want to tell about parasites, right? We have parasites like lice and ticks that are on our skin.
Okay.
And parasites like worms, roundworms, and tapeworms typically exist inside your body, GI tract.
Okay.
Now, those are transmitted through contaminated soil or contaminated water, or water that's not filtered and is contaminated with these little eggs. And so that's how it's transmitted into your body.
And you say that with water, which is actually why when you do those nasal cleanses, you're supposed to use filtered water so that you don't contract parasites.
Right. And in general, I would say here in the United States, we do tend to have filtered water, but this is more water that's in the wild and you do not know what the source is. Or raw seafood or raw meat products can also transmit some of these infections. So really, like poor sanitation areas or poor personal hygiene, not washing your fruits and vegetables can transmit some of these parasitic infections.
Okay, good to note on that particular video. And yeah, we don't want to run that back. Okay, next we're checking to see if a trendy new exercise machine, not the shake weight from the 90s, you may have already seen on TikTok actually works. So let's take a look. Check out these vibration plates. Influencers say you can get a full workout just by standing on one of these boards. This viral video claims that standing on one of these plates can actually burn up to 3,000 calories. The boards are also credited with other health benefits like reducing blood pressure and boosting immunity. Is that true for this type of exercise over traditional exercise?
Okay, so we do not have solid scientific evidence that this type of workout is better than a traditional exercise. However, there is a little bit of data, a little bit of research that does support muscle flexibility, some muscle strength, power,
sure,
as well as gait and balance benefits in older adults with these type of whole vibrating body kind of devices.
Okay.
But at this point, we do not have evidence that this is superior or better than a traditional exercises. I still say regular exercise, if done, we have plenty of evidence that if you do physical activity of any kind, strength training exercises, it's actually helpful for your heart and your overall health.
You don't have to be a gym rat. You can go and do 20 minutes or walk outside, and all of those health benefits will follow. Okay,
no,
very well.
There's one more study that actually showed this type of vibration can help you reduce muscle soreness after eccentric exercises.
It's interesting that you say that because one of our producers said that she did those post-workout after being a track athlete. So even though it's a full body workout for some, it was actually a cool down for her, relaxing those muscles.
Used is in physiotherapy and post-exercise to reduce delayed muscle soreness. That's where the value is. And I think it's a way to actually exercise and strengthen your muscles. There's nothing wrong with these machines, but they're not necessarily better than your regular physical exercise.
Certainly, and don't have a bowl of cereal while you're doing it like that chick. Okay, now for our last viral health trend, a video posted by the popular doctor on TikTok named Dr. Mike, raising questions over whether or not grapes are good for you. Listen to this one.
You said grapes are sugar bombs that are
They are
problematic.
sugar bombs. There's as
But that
much
doesn't mean
sugar
that-
in a cup of grapes as in a Hershey's candy bar.
Yeah, but that requires nuance. A child hears, a mother hears, grapes are a sugar bomb, might as well give them Hershey's. They will give them Hershey's.
Might as well.
Okay, this clip from Dr. Mike's podcast where he's debating with another doctor who says grapes have just as much sugar as a bar of chocolate. Willy Wonka, say it isn't so. Do grapes really have as much sugar as a Hershey bar?
So can I just say, this kind of bothers me a lot because the sugar in grapes cannot be compared with sugar in a processed candy.
Certainly.
So with grapes comes a lot of antioxidants, a lot of anti-inflammatory properties. We get minerals, we get vitamins. They also are shown to decrease your cholesterol, are heart healthy. You can't say that about any processed foods. And once in a while, Hershey's candy is good. But grapes, you can eat them every day. Everything is a balance.
Yes.
But I would not compare sugar in grapes and sugar in Hershey's bars. So definitely grapes are healthier.
He's got a peculiar demeanor about him by making that suggestion. So is the sugar in fruit bad for you? Obviously, it's a different kind.
Right. We actually know that fruits and vegetables are very beneficial for our health, especially for our heart. Now, everything is in a balance, right? If you have distributed diet, so that consists of whole foods, lentils, vegetables,
Yes.
that's a better diet than just eating a lot of fruits every day.
Right, and everything in moderation. Right. And if you wait long enough and ferment grapes, you have a dessert anyway, so you can skip the chocolate bar. The expert here to answer your questions live on the air is Dr. Sonal Harder with Dignity Health. Okay, so first one coming from Kyra in Phoenix. With the rising cost of healthcare in the States, have you seen a rise in patients transitioning from Western medicine to Eastern or traditional alternative medicine, Doc?
So I think, Rachel, this is a result of the whole networking. We have social media. We have so many people actually giving medical education on so many different platforms. And the world is a smaller place because of internet and social media. So people are looking at, alternative medicine, other ways of actually taking care of medical conditions.
Sure.
And I think it's a double-edged sword because it really depends on where you're getting your information, who you're listening to. So I think I attribute more to that than,
than
and I'm sure the
necessarily.
healthcare costs are rising, which is a problem for sure.
Sure.
But I think just the fact that we have so much information out there, so many people are talking about different ways of addressing medicine.
Turning more to home remedies and the social media, like you said, like WebMD was like the OG of social media medical
And
advice.
there are doctors on social media now
Right.
that are actually educating audience or viewers on medical conditions, you know?
We'll see. And telehealth taking a big step forward,
Right.
as we saw during the pandemic. So Jade from Cave Creek asking, how often should you do at-home dermaplaning? I think we've seen a lot of those videos circulating too.
Sure. Jade, that's a good question, but it really depends on your skin type. So if you're very dry, no more than once every 4 weeks, but about 1 to 4 weeks, one time.
Okay.
And not every day, not every week, but about 1 to 4 weeks, I think is a good frequency.
Give your skin a little break in between, especially if it's dry.
Exfoliation with a blade, so you just have to
Sure.
be careful.
Tends to get more oily too if you probably overcorrect. Okay, Sharon from Cave Creek, what is the difference between regular collagen powder and marine collagen?
Oh, that's a good question. So regular collagen powder is actually derived from cattle or bovine resources.
Okay.
And marine, as it says marine, it's actually derived from skin and scales of cod or snapper. So it really depends on your dietary preferences. So
Okay.
if you're a pescatarian, I would say go for marine collagen.
Sure, contains fish.
Exactly.
Okay.
But if you do not have that problem, then I think they both are very similar.
Okay, and I know last week we talked about bovine colostrum being good for gut health, but that was really kind of it. So we'll move on from that. Karen from Phoenix says, my hair is thinning. What can I do to slow down or stop the problem? I know a lot of people had, the COVID hair had that effect too.
Sure.
So I wonder.
So I think, Karen, it's very important to actually know why there is hair loss. So there are some metabolic conditions like thyroid or anemia. Stress can do that as well. So it's important to actually know the cause of your hair loss. But also certain things like hairstyle, high ponytails or very tight hairstyles can actually cause hair loss. Certain hair products may not be good for your scalp. So I would say definitely check with your primary care doctor, do your basic labs, and that's where you first address that. If there's a vitamin or mineral deficiency, and replacing those are some of the options.
Blood work is so huge and a big
Absolutely.
tell in what you might be missing. That's
Correct.
great advice. Okay, and finally, I think Jamie from Phoenix, does drinking celery juice every morning help prevent aging? Oh, well, does it?
Jamie, unfortunately, we do not have scientific evidence to, back this up. There's so many claims about celery juice and weight loss as well. But I always say this, celery juice is not bad for your health, but we don't have data that supports, this particular claim or even weight loss. If you are substituting a sugary beverage with celery juice, that might
Probably
be a good
helpful.
option. Yes, but we can't really back this up.
I can't have celery without ranch. But that's a great question. I love it. Dr. Sonal Harder with Dignity Health. Thank you so much for being in studio.
Well, on this Money Saving Monday, we're talking about how more parents are now supporting their adult children well into their late 20s and early 30s. Another recent study from the Pew Research Center shows about a third of young adults between 18 to 34 years old are still living with a parent. In fact, here's the breakdown. More than half, 57%, are those between 18 to 24 years old. But to help offset those expenses, nearly 3/4 of those kids living at home with mom and dad say they contribute financially to the household with things like groceries, utility bills, or helping to pay a portion of the rent or mortgage. So, what are parents to do when there's no empty nest? Let's talk about it. Joining me now is financial expert Angelica Prescott. Okay, Angelica, this is so difficult for both parents and their kids, but obviously more difficult for parents.
Yes, because they have less time, but 66% of millennials are really concerned about their parents having enough for their own retirement. So on both parties, there's a lot of stress and anxiety.
Yeah, so let's start at the beginning. What can parents do?
First, have an honest conversation about money with the kids. This is kind of where we break the ice and start talking about, all right, what are you doing? How much are you saving? Now that you're staying at the house, what are you putting aside? Because trust me, there's no free ride outside of these four walls.
Right.
So to train them from then to be able to help out and put some money aside themselves would train them enough so that when they step out, they're not surprised with the shock of the bills.
Yeah, it's almost like the parents have to be their own financial consultant of their kids.
Yes.
Like, let's divvy up this paycheck. How much can you contribute or not,
And
right?
do a strategy, because it could end up being positive. It doesn't always have to be negative, but it actually can end up positive for both parents and the kids to stay together and reduce their expenses individually. And maybe the parents are able to save on their own as well.
Yes. Okay, so speaking of kids, what can they do?
Well, have an honest conversation with your parents. If you're staying there or if you're seeing that they're struggling, because sometimes the story is opposite,
Right.
and parents are coming in to live with you, find out what's the strategy for you, mom and dad. How are you doing with your strategies? Are you doing sound decisions or bad decisions? Because the best thing your parent can give you is advice of things not to do based on their own life.
Yeah. You know what? I'm so glad you actually mentioned that, because I didn't think of that. And it's so real these days, is parents having to sometimes live with their kids. Yeah.
Yeah, especially widows. There's a high demand on widows going back to live with their kids, not necessarily going to a nursing home. And at times it can help with the kids. I mean, there's value that can be brought into this. There's certain cultures where this is absolutely normal.
You so read my mind, because I was going to say in the Asian culture, yeah.
Absolutely
I mean,
normal.
a lot of times the parents, they do live with the children. Yeah, absolutely.
But being able to break that down and ask the parent, if you were to be 86 years old today, Mom, would you want to be in a nursing home? Or would you want to live with us? Who do you have a soft expectation is going to step in? And which daughter or son-in-law doesn't really like you that you make sure you don't want to live with?
Which child is going to be the easiest to live with, really, at that point?
Yes.
Okay, so here's another realistic problem. What happens if parent and child are not on the same page?
Oh, bring a mediator. Whether it's a financial advisor, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a psychoanalyst, whatever it is, or a family member who has done well financially that can kind of see through the noise and create a solution. Strategy is key, because if you're not realistic about what's going on, the truth is going to fail you.
Yeah. Okay, so bottom line in all this.
Make sure that you're authentic about your answers. Don't lie. If you're not doing great sound decisions, address it now so you have more time to work on it. Parents and kids, the more authentic and honest we are, the more we can solve.
I know, and it is a tough conversation to have.
It is.
But once you just, dive into it and then just address it,
I've been
that's the
here
hardest
for
part.
18 years, and I promise you there's no conversation that's the same as the last.
Yeah.
Everything's unique. Fight forward.
And you have a lot of clients who actually go through this.
Oh my gosh, I just talked about it 20 minutes before I walked in.
I think I heard you on the phone. Yeah, on speaker. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right, Angelica, always great advice. Thank you so much. It's your turn now. If you have any questions you want to ask Angelica today, text us 602-444-1212. Again, make sure to let us know who you are and where you're texting from, and we'll get some of your questions answered live on the air in about 20 minutes. Lindsay, over to you. Time now to Ask the Expert, and here to answer your questions on talking finances with your adult children is financial expert Angelica Prescott. Okay, our first question is from Dana in Phoenix. She says, my kids are in college and spend money like crazy. How can I reel them in?
Well, this is that window of time where the word budget shows up. So for the month, set the budget, and if they run it out, they're going to have to feel a way to kind of squeeze more coins out of their dollars. This is a way to give them a reality check. So set the budget for whatever number you can afford for them to be spending, and set that the tone.
Here's a taste of the real world for you,
Reality's
right?
coming.
Yeah, exactly. This viewer says, my 34-year-old stepson comes to visit 6 months every year. He does not work when he is with us here in Arizona. How do I tell him he needs to work when he's under my roof? Whoa.
Well, I think as soon as you start collecting some funds from the individual as they walk in, this is how much it is every month. Are you comfortable with still coming? Set that as a precedent before they arrive.
Yeah.
And that way, who knows, he may be able to work enough those previous 6 months to give you the check off the top. Never underestimate, but set the expectation beforehand and see if he even stays for 6 months.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, he's like, I'm out. Yeah, exactly. All right, Nikki in Peoria says, what's an appropriate amount from your child's paycheck to ask for? She's 24, lives at home, and gives $400 a month. We pay the $1,850 monthly rent, all food, utilities, and transportation. I like how she's very specific about this.
This is great. There is only one thing I wish you would have written. How much is their paycheck? If their paycheck is $2,000, $3,000, or just $1,200, then $400 might be 1/4 or 1/3 of the whole check, but it may be a really small amount. So I'll say more of a percentage. If you turn around and say, hey, give me 50% of what you earn, whatever that is, and live off of the rest, that's workable.
Okay.
So look at 50, make it simple. Slice it in half.
Yeah, that's interesting. 50, or, you know, what they can afford, right?
Again, how much are they paying for? They're not paying for food. They're not paying for light. They're not paying for transportation. They're not paying for where they live. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, okay, 30. I'll be nice.
Right. 30, but really 50. All right, that's what she's saying. Okay, Susan from Phoenix says, my daughter is moving back home after a bad breakup. How do I set up some financial ground rules? Oh, that's a good, I hear this a lot. Bad breakup, kid back in the house.
Look at their pay stub if they're still working and assess how much were you spending in the other location. And keep that, maybe even if you discount it a little bit because you give extra hugs, you know, put that money aside, and it doesn't have to just go towards your bill. If you're comfortable with taking the funds, you can invest it for them and be able to give that back to them for their down payment on their home. Ooh, there's ways to work this into a good story.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Tina from Chandler says, my son moved back into our home after being on his own while in college. He decided he did not want to finish college and want to work to try to save money. We love having him here, but are not sure what to charge him per month. Oh.
Again, back to what they're earning.
Right.
Some people are earning off the cuff $3,000, some are not earning much at all. So based on how much he's earning, make sure you can look at a percentage that is comfortable for you to receive that can actually do something for the household. Or give them household chores, like maybe they prep all the meals for the week so you guys don't have to eat out as much. Maybe they're responsible for all the cleaning and the whatever tool works at the house. They fix the sink. There are other ways to also monetize their comfort.
That is so key. I love like divvying up the physical responsibilities as well if you can't do the financial.
Maybe they cut the grass. Maybe they do the landscaping.
Right.
Maybe they clean the pool.
Yeah. Oh, that is good. Okay. Well, I know we got a lot of questions, and you know what? For our viewers, I love the specific anecdotes. So if you want to text Angelica, she's going to be here for another 10 minutes. Text her, and you know what? Tell them how much your kid is making. Let her divvy it up.
I'll give you.
Put Angelica to work. All right. Well, I love you. Thank you so much. All right. Well, if you've been sneezing, sniffling, itching your eyes, and having a runny nose, join the club. As we mentioned earlier, with spring comes allergies. An estimated 1 in 4 adults in the U.S. suffer from seasonal allergies, according to the CDC. And if you feel like it's really bad right now, well, you're right. Spring allergy seasons are starting about 20 days earlier than they used to, according to a study of pollen count data across North America from 1990 to 2018. So what do? Let's ask the expert. Joining me now is Dr. Natasha Bouillon, National Medical Director of One Medical. All right, Natasha, this is such a hot topic. You're seeing a bunch of patients.
So many people this
suffering.
week.
Yes, me included, although I'm not seeing you. Let's talk about over-the-counter meds. There are so many. So how do you choose?
It's overwhelming. And you know, most people, when they have allergies, the first thing they reach for is an oral antihistamine.
Yes.
And actually, the best medication to take is a nasal steroid.
I thought
The
that.
nasal steroid, it's number one. The reason why is it decreases that inflammation. It helps the itchy eyes. It helps the ear congestion. It's kind of a catch-all, so it's a great medication. And if you need to take oral medications instead, an antihistamine, a decongestant, those are fine. Eye drops are fine as well, but number one, nasal steroid.
Okay, that's so interesting because back in the day when I had a bad allergy attack and I had to see my doctor, she said that the nasal sprays, it's more localized, whereas the oral meds, it's all throughout your body.
Exactly, yeah. The nasal spray, it's localized. It doesn't cause many side effects. The antihistamine, it tends to just dry people out. Some people get drowsy, they get dehydrated, and so it's better to take a nasal steroid spray if you can.
Okay, you know, another thing I'm wondering, you hear this all the time. I've never had allergies until I moved here. Why is that?
Yeah, and this is what I see with a lot of my patients. They say, I am not a person who gets allergies,
Right.
and all of a sudden, I'm getting allergies. Well, a couple things. Our immune system can change because fundamentally, what's happening with allergies is your immune system is reacting to pollen and dander and all kinds of things.
Yes.
And even people who live here year over year, I've got people who are born and raised in Arizona, and now they're having allergies and they never have before, and it's so frustrating because their eyes are itchy and it can make you so miserable.
It is miserable. Okay, let's talk about some physical things that we can do.
Yeah, I think number one is rinsing out those sinuses. So basically, our sinuses all day long, they collect pollen and dander. It just builds up. That's what causes a lot of our symptoms. And so using something like a neti pot or a saline rinse, it really makes a difference. A lot of people don't love it, but taking it every single night, it's huge.
Yeah.
I think the other big thing is take spring cleaning seriously because our house, it traps pollen and dander and dust mites. And so vacuuming those rugs, changing those bed sheets every single week, even things like makeup brushes, if it's soft, it can trap pollen and allergies. So wash those makeup brushes every single day.
Okay, I specifically highlighted makeup brushes because there are some, you know, I think, okay, clean the makeup brushes just, you know, because it gets icky.
Yeah.
But I never thought it would be allergy related
Right?
too.
Anything soft in your house, dust mites love to burrow, pollen loves to cling onto, so take spring cleaning seriously. Change those HEPA filters in your house. Make sure that you have a HEPA filter. Change your AC filters every 3 months. And so it's really about keeping the house as clean as possible.
Oh, I'm so glad you went over that. Okay, I want to go over the 4 allergy myths that I was searching online that I feel like a lot of people believe. Number 1, only take allergy meds after you have symptoms.
Okay, that is a myth. And now here's the thing. The nasal steroid spray, it actually takes about 2 weeks to be really effective. We want people taking that daily. Now, a decongestant or an antihistamine, you can take those as needed. But the steroid spray, if you know you get allergies, start taking it today.
Yeah, so that you don't have to feel, you know, and suffer later.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, taking local honey will help with allergies.
It's a
we hear this all the
myth,
time.
but I wish that was true, but there's been studies and local honey doesn't actually make a difference for allergy sufferers. It's a bummer.
Oh, wow, no, okay, all right. Dogs and certain cat breeds that are hypoallergenic don't trigger allergies.
Oh my gosh, people buy those Portuguese water dogs and all those poodles.
for that reason.
Yes, and here's the thing. There is no such thing as a dog or a cat that's 100% hypoallergenic. And the reason why is it's the dander from the pets that attach to their skin, and that's what we actually get allergens from. Now, there are some dogs that shed less, they have shorter fur, and it reduces the allergens, but you're never 100% allergy-free from that pet dander.
Okay, and one last thing real quick. Flowers cause hay fever.
That is a myth. So it's interesting. It's actually pollen that's airborne from grass and ragweed. That is actually what causes the allergies. Pollen in flowers tends to be heavier and stickier because that attracts insects and bees. But if you directly contact flower pollen, you can get allergies, but it's mostly not from flowers. It's from all of that grass and ragweed all around us.
Oh, such good information, Natasha. Thank you so much. It is time now to ask the expert. Here to answer your questions live on air about spring allergies is Dr. Natasha Bouillon. All right, our first question is from John in Phoenix. Does putting Alka-Seltzer tablet in water stop, is it rhinitis? quickly?
Rhinitis, yeah, we call it allergic rhinitis.
I'm
It's
not
the-
familiar with that.
It's the symptoms of allergies. So it's the runny nose, the itchy eyes. Okay, Alka-Seltzer, a lot of people think that's for heartburn.
Yeah.
They do have, a whole line for allergies, and you can use it for allergies. What they have in it is an antihistamine. So basically, if you use Alka-Seltzer, allergy antihistamine. It does work. The problem, though, is it's called a first-generation antihistamine.
Okay.
It's a strong antihistamine. It makes you drowsy. So if people use that, I say use it at night. But if you want to use an antihistamine that doesn't make you drowsy, it's things like Zyrtec. The second-generation antihistamines are better.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, Larry from Peoria says, I have horrible allergies, having been diagnosed as allergic to everything. A friend suggested a homeopathic medication, and it works like a charm with no side effects.
Oh, I would love to hear more about that. You know, I hear about people having allergies to everything all the time. And for people with severe allergies, when it doesn't work when they take over-the-counter medications, certainly see an allergist. And they can sometimes do allergy shots, but I'm curious about the homeopathic remedy.
Yeah.
The other thing I tell people is we are often a culprit with allergies. We bring all the allergens into our home.
Yes.
And so it's the idea of changing your clothes before you come home, change your shoes, you track in pollen.
Oh, I
wash
make
your
the kids
hair.
leave the shoes in the garage.
And you know, my patients with really severe allergies, they won't even put gel or mousse in their hair in the springtime because that attracts all the allergens. And so
Whoa.
I feel for you. It's hard to suffer from allergies.
Wow, I must be a magnet. All right. Hey, Larry, the last one, you should text Natasha after this segment because she's curious to know
learn
the,
about-
the homeopathic remedies that you do. Okay, Vincent texting in from Tempe. Although the consumption of honey is a myth to cure allergies, would the daily intake of bee pollen help fight allergy problems?
Vincent, that's such a great question. I have a lot of patients ask me this, and there's been research on this, and the research is really mixed. I would love to recommend it and say that it works, but the research shows it's not conclusive, so we don't think it works until we have more evidence.
Okay, so don't waste your money.
Don't waste your money, yeah.
Okay, good to know. Christy from Litchfield says, I've been coughing recently and there's some phlegm. There are no other symptoms and I feel fine. Could this be allergy related and what should I do?
Okay, this is the age-old question of if someone has a cold or if they have allergies, they're coughing, they don't know. And certainly if you have postnasal drip, that can cause a cough, that can be allergies. Here's a telltale sign I tell people, is if you are coughing and feeling sick throughout the entire day, it's more likely that you have a cold. But if your symptoms are waxing and waning, it's worse in the morning, it's worse mid-morning, it gets better throughout the day, it's more likely that you have allergies. And so for that postnasal drip, using that nasal steroid spray, it does make a difference.
Excellent. Thank you for differing that. Okay, Al from Mesa says, I have both allergies and asthma. My issues are getting worse and sometimes I don't know what medicines to take.
Yeah, and Al, you are not alone. So people who have asthma during allergy season, they tend to get more asthma flares because the allergies trigger those asthma flares. Now, there's a really great medication called Montelukast, that's the generic of it. It works well for allergies and asthma. So I tell folks with asthma, actually go see your doctor because asthma is a really tricky condition. There's different inhalers for it, there's different medications for it. People have different lung capacities, so it's good to talk with your doctor about what's the best treatment for you.
Excellent stuff. Okay, and I know we have a lot more questions, so you're going to go back in the green room for 10 minutes and answer more text questions. So again, text us 602-444-1212. Well, on this Wellness Wednesday, we're talking about motivation. What drives us? How do we stay focused to achieve our goals? What about motivating our kids? And did you know there's actually 2 kinds of motivation? Let's talk about it. Joining me now is family therapist Juliana Lennon. Okay, we want to start with the 2 kinds that we were just talking about. One is intrinsic, the other one is extrinsic. Tell me the difference.
Yes, so when we are dealing with intrinsic, it's that feeling inside where you drive yourself. You know, you get excited about something.
Yes.
The extrinsic is the one that's more of this outside motivation, so reward in a way. And one of the most interesting things, there was a Harvard study where they wanted to find out, and they were polling parents, are kids going to get better grades if they are paid for it? So that's the extrinsic. And what they found was no. So it's so interesting. They need to have that self-motivation typically in order to get those good grades.
Okay, that's so interesting.
Interesting.
Okay, because when you were talking about extrinsic, I immediately thought of my son.
Oh.
And how he needs that carrot like every step of the way, right? Like if you do this, I'm gonna do this. If you do this, but yet my daughter, she's just like, oh, I got a B. Oh, that's, she knows that's not good enough, right?
Isn't that funny?
Yes.
And you have to remember, even though we hear this stuff, every child's different, every person's different.
Yeah, but that really is interesting.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you also say you need to find your why.
You
Explain
gotta
that.
Find your why. I spend a lot of time in my office talking to people about this. Why and what? What motivates you? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Yes.
And if we can unlock that, we have such a great opportunity to find success. We get in the right lane. But so often you ask what motivates you, and people aren't really sure.
They're at a loss.
They don't really know that answer.
And I almost feel like, isn't that where it starts?
Yeah, it is.
Finding that. And once you
certainly-
find it,
Yeah.
then it's like green light to go, right?
It's one place to unlock, so it does help a lot.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Okay, but however, when we talk about trying to find it, why may people lack motivation?
We can be overwhelmed.
Yes.
There can be burnout. One of the main things I see is fear. It's so funny because a lot of times people can be scared of success.
I could see
and
that.
I know that sounds silly when we hear that out in the, out there in society, but it really is. It's like some way they're just kind of taught to just do status quo. I don't want to necessarily break the ceiling.
Right.
Maybe this is good enough.
Right. They don't
And
want to push themselves.
Yeah, and I'm always like, wait, let's break that ceiling. You can do it.
Do you think maybe it's because there's a fear of failure?
Absolutely.
And it's paralyzing.
Absolutely.
So, paralyzing, I feel like when you're talking about feeling overwhelmed. But yeah, I mean, you talk about the fear of failure, but that could just be like, oh my gosh, well, if I try to reach for the stars, what if I can't get them?
That's right.
Yeah.
So there are all these little things that we can kind of tweak and shift that perspective.
Yeah, yeah, I like
So,
that.
yeah.
Speaking of which, so let's change that.
Okay.
And you say that people need to set personal challenges and then track their progress. How do
Yes.
they do that?
Now, I know people don't always like this, but I call it, you got to do the calendar. I know you're like that.
Oh my God, I will grab that calendar. Yeah.
And really, well, it doesn't have to be a calendar, but every week I am analyzing what it is I need to get done, and you can switch it up. We're in control. We have choice.
Yeah.
If I can't get it done on Tuesday, then it's going to happen on Saturday.
Right.
Make sure you write those goals down and make sure you do it. You can switch things around,
Yes.
but if you do it, it makes such a difference. You can see if you're holding yourself accountable.
Right.
There's so many ways you can track it, and I always have people bring it into session too, because then I can go, oh wait, where's that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Wait, we forgot this piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
And finally, how do people stay inspired?
Well, think how many, just get on social media and see how many great people are out there motivating us. How many great books, how many podcasts. Find one you love that you resonate with. I put them in all the time.
Yes.
We were talking about the one that we were.
Mel Robbins.
Yes.
Yes,
That
she
we
is
love
she's the
it.
favorite person
Yes.
in my car on my drive home in
That's
traffic.
right.
Yeah.
And so it's so inspiring, and you learn so much.
Oh, it's so inspiring.
How can you not be motivated? So just start there, or get a book.
Yeah.
Good book.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. I'm doing something right. All right, Juliana, thank you. Time now to ask the expert here to answer your questions live on air about motivation. Is family therapist Juliana Liddon. Our first question is from John in Cave Creek. What about if I'm not motivated to go to the gym? Oh, that's a
been
big
there?
one. Thank you.
And you
Yes.
know what's so funny? My daughter was just telling me this morning, she was just starting to get back into working out, and she goes, you know what? I'm going to go every morning at 6 a.m. I'm going to make myself do it just to get through that where you don't want to vomit thing.
Yes.
And if you just do it for a couple weeks or 2 or 3 weeks, she goes,
Right.
then I'll be kind of like set.
Yes.
So if you just say to yourself, I'm going to do it, and something almost
Commit.
kind of weird, like
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
And you do it even though you don't want to, sometimes it kind of shakes it.
Yeah. And don't you think the hardest part is starting?
Always.
Right?
Always.
And then once you get going, it gets a little bit better, but that starting
Yeah.
point.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is. Okay, Irene says, you don't, wait a minute. I'm trying to read this. You don't have the get up and go to exercise. Maybe I think she meant I don't have. That's it. I'm sorry. I don't have the get up and go to exercise. How can you help me? Okay.
Start slow, because there's no magic recipe for this, right? I mean, we know it's all about discipline and really kind of forcing yourself to do it.
Right.
But say you want to start walking, say it's hard for you, just pick 2 days
Yeah.
throughout the week, circle it on the calendar, and you're going to do it.
Yes.
And that's it. And then as you start to feel a little bit better, it's just like the other question,
Right.
you're then going to be able to manage it and do a little bit more.
Yeah, I've always heard baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps are
You
the
know,
key.
yeah.
It's the small things that make the huge shifts.
Yes.
It's not just this turning 180.
Right,
you know?
because that's so impossible and it's daunting, and then
It
you
is.
don't want to do it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Overwhelmed.
exactly. Okay, Janet from Phoenix says, I can't seem to stick with a quality diet. I keep reverting to wanting to eat junk all the time. How do I stay on track? That's a hard one too.
It is a hard one. And so what I say is in the family, if
Yeah.
you can even get 2 people that are going to do it, right?
Yes.
And the other thing is, or a friend, okay, and you can
right.
share meals or however that works. But also you've got to meal plan or prep.
That's
I know.
so hard.
It is so hard to do. But you know what? You can just, I go and I just say, like, okay, I'm going to just get my meats or my,
Right,
entree.
right.
I can figure out, on the way home, I
sides
get the
and all that.
salad.
Yeah, yeah,
or,
yeah.
oh, I need some asparagus.
Okay.
Get the bulk of,
Okay.
of what you need, and you
Yeah.
can create a meal. By the end of the day, you've got something figured out.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Healthy,
I will
healthy.
try with you. Okay.
Do it healthy.
Elena from Chandler says, how do I motivate my kids to do their homework? It's such a struggle every day. Sometimes my son doesn't even bring home his homework. I can so relate to this. I can so relate
Oh my
to
gosh.
this.
And you find it in their backpack and there's a whole bunch of folders. You're like, what is this?
That is sad.
It's so
Yes.
hard.
Yes.
Well, again, I wish there was like some magic fairy dust for this one, like we were talking about with the different types of motivation and how that Harvard study was saying, hey, it doesn't help to pay. But
Right.
you were saying, oh yeah? Well,
Oh, yeah. Free time on the iPad gets
Right.
them all the time.
If
Yeah.
that works, use it.
Right.
Don't overdo it.
Exactly.
But it's hard. And to be quite quick, if we can encourage them instead of praise them. Encourage them means help them find out when they do something successful in the past, how they can own it and it feels good for them. Whether it's a sporting event or it's school.
Right.
And try to help, talk about, okay, if you want to eventually be this doctor or, whatever they want to be, we have to kind of plug and
Gotta
play all
work
these
for it.
pieces.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. It's an ongoing thing.
It really, really is. Okay, real quick, Yasmin from Scottsdale says, my husband and I have high-stress jobs. We feel like it's a sprint every day between work and kids and their sports. So come the weekends, we barely want to think or decide on things, let alone meal plan for the week. How do we get motivated? I can understand this one too.
Okay, so I was just talking to a couple the other day, and I said, you know what? You need to take turns. So you need to take turns, and maybe don't do it on Sunday, because Sunday's always our crash day, and as mamas and daddies, we've got kids the next
Right.
day. All this stuff's
Yes,
going on.
laundry, all of it, yeah.
Okay, so Saturday's the deal,
Okay.
and it's your Saturday or it's my Saturday, and you're going to go and you're going to go get the chicken breast, you're going to get the ground beef, you're going to get whatever it is.
Yes.
And it just, because then Sunday is just less crazy, and you're taking turns.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's good.
The light bulb just came on. That is huge. I'm going to steal that.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Love you. Thank you. Thank you. Get into the mind and motive of this case. So joining me now is psychologist Dr. Catherine Coleman of Coleman Psychology and Consulting. And Catherine, I want to read to you right now several text messages that were actually included in this 1,200-page report that was released by the Queen Creek Police Department. So take a look right here. Here are some of them. It says, got in a fight, killed a kid, guess I don't know my own strength. That text was allegedly from 17-year-old Talon Renner. Here's another. Delete everything. Vids, texts, pics in costume. According to police, that text came from suspect Jacob Meisner. And then here's the last one. Bro, that kid died. This text was one police say came from suspect Taylor Sherman. All right, so Catherine, in light of all of this, it makes you wonder, why would they allegedly text things like this knowing that they could get in trouble, or did they just not realize?
I don't know that it's that they don't realize, but in order to understand this, you have to first understand the development of the adolescent brain. We know that our brains aren't fully developed until about the age of 25, and the way that things like judgment and decision-making work is very different as an adolescent than it is as an adult. There's a lot less foresight.
Right.
And there's also kind of this cloak of invincibility that a lot of adolescents have. It's the reason why they make bad decisions about using drugs. They have unprotected sex. They think nothing bad will happen. And so, you combine that with the fact that, we are overexposed to violent content pretty consistently. It's oftentimes glamorized, and we see that bad things happen and people don't get in trouble.
Right, right. Okay, so now let's fast forward 6 months later. This Preston Lord case based here in the Valley has gotten international attention. Why do you think it's resonated to this level?
Well, I think that number one is that there's such a lack of understanding because this is so heinous, what happened. And there was such a reckless disregard for Preston's life.
Yes.
And so as a society in general, we have a difficult time wrapping our head around this. And so we seek to understand. And I think there's also this like very personal connection that a lot of us can have to the community. This is suburban, middle upper class America.
Who would have thought, right?
And so it's like, oh my gosh, if this can happen there, it can happen in my own backyard. I need to try to make sense of this.
Anywhere, anytime, any place throughout the world. Teen violence is a problem that's universal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Catherine, thank you so much. And it's now day 4 of jury selection for the trial of Chad Daybell. Daybell is accused of killing his 2 stepchildren and late wife in a widely followed series of murders involving doomsday religious beliefs he held with Lori Vallow Daybell, the children's mother. She was sentenced to life in prison last summer, and if convicted, Chad Daybell could receive the death penalty. He has pleaded not guilty. Dr. Catherine Coleman joins me once again for the mind and motive of this case. All right, Catherine, so prosecutors are accusing Daybell of making outlandish claims of people being possessed and becoming zombies to justify these crimes. Can you talk about how big of a role of these religious beliefs has really played into this case?
I mean, I think that a lot of times, they would not call it a cult, but it has the makings of a cult, right? And so when you look at this, I mean, we've seen this happen before. Charles Manson. I mean, we see this happening over and over again, where there are certain beliefs that people it just becomes their entire identity, and then it causes them to do these, commit these heinous acts. And, in this case, he's the prophet and he can see light and dark. And the kids, they were zombies, and so they were dark. And so the only way to get rid of zombies is to eliminate the body. Like, to us, it's crazy thinking, but to them, it's so ingrained that they become...
It's reality.
It's reality.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Okay, I want to talk about the jury selection in this case. 18 jurors will be picked. We know 6 of them will be alternates. In a high-profile case like this, and there are a lot of high-profile cases, like for instance, the Idaho murder, right? How hard is it to find a juror to be impartial when it is blasted all over the news and has so much attention on it?
It's so difficult, and it also depends on the size of the community as well.
Yeah.
So if you're in a larger community, obviously your chances of finding suitable jurors are going to be better.
Right.
But, especially in smaller communities, it affects the community in a different way. You can't be unbiased. You can't be unbiased.
Yeah.
And, I can't even begin to imagine. And not only that, but it's going to take, this trial is going to last a long time.
Yeah.
So also finding jurors that can be away from work or their family for that long, and really can have the mindset of focusing only on the facts and not getting involved in social media or what's being reported. The attorneys that are handling this jury selection, they have a lot of work to do, and I guarantee you they're working with trial consultants to do the whole thing.
Yeah, I bet. It's so difficult, and it's funny that you say that, the time commitment and everything else involved, just let alone finding, an unbiased jury. In fact, the attorneys have already dismissed a lot of people. They've interviewed dozens of people. They've already dismissed a number just because of the time commitment alone. So it should be interesting to see, who these people will be, even though we won't know till after the trial. All right, Catherine. Sean Diddy Combs in the national spotlight, accused of sexual assault, sex trafficking, and rape. Last week, the LA and Miami homes of Combs were raided by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security as part of a federal investigation involving human trafficking crimes, according to law enforcement officials. That investigation stems from sexual assault allegations from past civil lawsuits. 2 of his sons were spotted in handcuffs outside his LA home. The music mogul has not formally been charged or accused by federal prosecutors. Combs' attorney called the searches a, quote, gross overuse of military-level force. So let's get into the mind and motive of this case. Joining me once again is psychologist Dr. Catherine Coleman. Catherine, looking into these lawsuits, it is very, very disturbing. I mean, some of these lawsuits allege that Combs were sexually assaulting teenagers all the way back even to the 90s. What do you make of all this?
I mean, it's horrifying. And it really reminds me a lot of when the accusations about R. Kelly came out. And we think, oh my gosh, like, I grew up listening to this guy's music. How could he do such a thing? And, you know, we see this a decent amount with celebrities. There's this rapid rise in power. With that comes a lot of influence and women, right? That's just kind of what happens. It's unfortunate, obviously, that this has all happened. And it's amazing to me that it has taken this long for all of this to come out.
Yeah, no kidding. And, you know, this past Sunday, I found this bizarre, to be honest with you. Combs was actually sharing Easter photos of his daughter on Instagram. I would think that when you are in the international spotlight, right, that there's an investigation going on, your home's got raided, the last thing you'd want to do is call more attention to yourself and pretend like nothing happened, right?
Maybe you would, but also maybe you want to kind of balance out the perception that the world has with you. You know, I know that you guys are thinking this really horrible negative thing about me right now, but really this is who I am. It's a family man. I love my children. I mean, he may be trying to kind of influence the public perception right now because of everything and saying like, look, I should still be in your good graces.
Like reverse psychology in a way, right?
Basically,
Okay, let's get into our second national case here. On Monday, Alex Murdaugh was sentenced to 40 more years in prison for financial crimes including conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering, stealing millions of dollars from his clients. Murdaugh was also ordered to pay more than $8.7 million in restitution to his victims. His federal sentence will run concurrently with his state prison time, where he's already serving 27 years in prison for a slew of financial crimes, and that's in addition to the 2 life sentences the once prominent attorney is already serving for the double murder of his wife and son. So, Catherine, in a case like this where there are multiple sentences being served at the same time, what is it like for the convicted criminal? I mean, is there any true remorse here?
You know, when I look back at everything through the Murdaugh trials, and there's been so many documentaries that have come out about this case, I'm not buying that he's remorseful. You know, this is an attorney. He is well established, and I think he knows how to play the game. He knows what he needs to say in order to at least try to buy back a little bit of respect or empathy.
If there's much left. In cases like this, where criminals, you know, they're serving these life sentences, yet they still have to go through another trial. Another case, an example, is Lori Vallow Daybell, right? She's already serving a life sentence back in Idaho. So, in their mind, I mean, is there really any hope left I mean, they're going to spend the rest of their life behind bars. So here you are going through another trial.
Maybe they'll spend the rest of their life behind bars. I mean, there is always a chance for an appeal. And so, you know, you have to understand that everything that goes on during these trials is recorded. It's on record. And so they can be using that information in an appeal later, you know, for or against them. And so, it's in his best interest probably to go through the trial in hopes that maybe there could be an appeal down the road, or maybe there could be, you know, a reduction or less restitution. Who knows? You know, if I'm in his spot, I'm not going to have a lot of hope. I'm going to think, oh my gosh, this is the rest of my life.
This is it.
What am I going to do with my time? Let's just get this over with.
All right, Catherine, thank you so much for all of your insight into the 4 cases. We appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to follow our YouTube channel for more content and watch the Ask the Expert segment weekdays at 4 p.m. and right here on our 12 Plus app.